I want to talk to you about my friend Charlie Crawford. He's a 10-time NFR qualifier.
Charlie Crawford, time to just shake it out and win. Got it on him fast, set
there
up.
We are.
Here's a day
nice
money
run.
lead. You betcha 3-8.
That's an absolute perfect run. Timing was perfect from the time the first swing is up. He's got the control. Charlie made it happen by being timed up with his horse with the steer, and being able to not just rope, but to pick that steer's head up without changing the momentum for the heeler at all.
We know his beautiful wife, Jackie, all three of their beautiful children, the founder of the Liberty and Loyalty Foundation, which this year will exceed $1 million raised for military and first responders. I've said it 1,000 times. Charlie, it's time to rope, nod and ride, whip and spur. I want to welcome you to the Charlie Crawford Podcast. Let's ride.
Having a coachable attitude. Trey Johnson and I have done quite a few clinics together, and he calls it having that coachable spirit, that teachable spirit. When we do clinics, he'll do such a good job of prepping the class to where they're almost open-minded to hear the information that you have. And it takes a certain mindset sometimes to be able to have that. Now, a lot of the times, the people that I've coached, there's a certain amount of information they've learned at a certain age. And once they've learned that, it's almost like nothing else can be taught. Because what they learned at an early age, that's what it is, and there's no talking them out of it. So there's almost a roadblock in the amount of information that they're able to perceive. I think there's a certain humbleness that it takes to be able to learn to where you're able to drop sometimes your ego, sometimes your pride, and sometimes your open-mindedness to be able to take in the information that is able to get brought to you. Now, I'm not saying this as a coach. I'm saying this in the fact of I've seen a certain amount of people that when they come to the clinics, when they're open-minded and their eye contact is there and they're wanting to learn, they're asking really good questions, taking those notes, I can tell those people are going to get better. Like they just have that spirit amongst them and that humility. And then I've had some people that come to my clinics to where when you're talking to them, they're looking down, they're not making eye contact. I've even had some of them when I would talk to them, they would turn around and turn the other way. And that's not very coachable because you're not perceiving the information. And so you're not really getting that much out of it. And if that's going to be your mentality to trying to get better roping, it's going to be pretty tough. Because the one thing I will say about team roping is constantly evolving. Horsemanship, constantly evolving. And so to be able to be open-minded, learning how the swing rotates to how you can bring your first swing up to the amount of horsemanship that it's going to take to now evolve your left hand and to be open-minded about those certain things. Like I said, I've watched it and I've been there. I've also seen guys growing up as it gets to that top level, that are questioning the top guys. And you're like, how can you be questioning the top guys? Well, those guys are on top of their game. They're winning for a reason. I want to know what those guys are thinking, what they're focusing on, because those winners, they're winning for a reason. And that might be maybe my credit to where I was able to continue to keep getting better through my roping. Now, I'm not saying that to sound arrogant, but I also know that I wrote better at the end of my career than when I started. So to me, that spirit works. I've seen those people at the clinics, and when they had that humbleness to them, it worked. I've had some guys that come with a lot less talent, with a very much coachable spirit. And then I've watched some of the guys that just stay real guarded on what they know, and they almost don't want to listen. They almost don't want to, they question it, and questioning's fine, but they almost don't want to take it in because this is what they were taught. And they may have a lot of talent. And I've seen a lot of times the guys that came in coachable, at the end of my clinics, we always have a jackpot. And a lot of times the guys that come in with the pride, they a lot of times don't rope as good in the jackpot as the people that came in that soaked it up like a sponge. I've heard Aaron Rodgers on a podcast one time talk about an ego death. And sometimes there's a lot to that. Man, those guys that stay around for a long time, they're constantly getting better. They're constantly evolving because that is our sport. It is truly doing that. And so I think to be able to get the most out of what this hobby is to turn into something that's going to produce cash and being able to win at those ropings, man, how you perceive information is going to be a lot on how far a guy can get to being out the best performance he can.